Hey, what is going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're having a good day so far. I want to welcome everybody to episode 3 of Millennial. I'm Billy Zerillo, Melissa Miller. We're going to be here talking to you guys about a couple of things, right? A couple of millennial things. But first of all, I want to let Melissa know that I survived the tropical storm.
I see you.
I made it. It's been today was been a little hectic trying to get back with internet connection and stuff like that. Just another thing that we like to yell about. Wi-Fi not working when it's supposed to work, right? And so, but what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit different, right? We're gonna try to have a little bit more fun today. Maybe not so serious all the time, right? But we're gonna have a little fun today. We actually, I can't remember if it was you or me. We actually found this list of 31 things that make millennials or have millennial traits. And so we're going to be going through a couple of those, talking about our point of view. Hey, do we agree with that? Do we not agree with that? And our thoughts behind that. So Mel, how are you doing? First of all, how is everything in your neck of the woods?
I'm good. It's a little gray here. I'm up in Huntington again this week, doing my work-life balance with my relationship. But I got my tea in my trusty Yeti here. I usually drink coffee when I'm out, like if I go to Starbucks or Dunkin'. But when I'm home in the mornings, I always drink my tea. So nice. I'm good. I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I had to run around. We tried to use the Wi-Fi at the beach home, and that wasn't working. So I ran down to the clubhouse really quick. And so, us millennials are resourceful. We're going to find a way to get to the Wi-Fi.
I just said, we're glad you're safe, but I tell you what, you were determined. This getting this done. We had tried to get on at 10, and we were still having some issues. And I just said, you're determined I can't talk this morning. Persevere like a true millennial here to get this going today. So I love it. So I'm glad you got it all worked out. So we can yell today.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we should get right into it. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we should get right into it. Get to the list and start kind of going through a couple of those and seeing, and neither of us have talked about this list. Just to let everybody know, we haven't talked about any of these things. So you're going to get our real reaction behind some of this. So, and obviously, guys, those that are watching, make sure you're commenting who you are, where you're from. We'd love to give you a shout out. But we also love to get your thoughts, especially if you are a millennial. Even if you're not a millennial, that's fine too. We want your thoughts too, because we'd love to definitely. And that's just a quick side note, Melissa. I was going to tell you this last night. But I just never got around to it. So last night at dinner, I brought this list out to all, the whole family that was at the table. Was about 7 or 8 of us, and it got heated. There were a lot of times they were attacking me for being definitely the millennial, right? And it was just fun, but it was all in good fun. But it was just a lot of, because it was really crazy. We had what was the generation before us? Gen Z or whatever, Gen X. Yeah,
and then we actually before us. Yeah, the X.
And we actually had some baby boomers at the table too, so it was really an interesting conversation.
Oh, I'm sure this is a great topic. You know what? I think that wouldn't it be neat for these podcasts and us millennials yelling to spark conversations with people and their families and their friends, because I think that it's just topics that need to be discussed so many times, and understanding all the generations, it's a great conversation starter. So I'm glad that we could have brought that. But yeah, I think I pulled a great first one from our list. Now I actually just scrolled through these first, so I don't know anything about any of this. But number 27, Millennials Love the Internet. I thought this was good because of our internet issues here, but it does say that. There was just a survey, 73% of online millennials say that the internet has a net positive impact on society, highest percentage of any age group. But this was interesting. It says 97% of millennials use the internet. What the heck are the other 3% doing? I'm not sure. But 1/3 of them, 1/3 exclusively use on their phones. And that's interesting for me because I'm on my laptop and my computer all day long. So to not have the fact that 1/3 of millennials are only using their phones for their internet.
I mean, I think so. I think for a simple fact is that we're always on the go, whereas maybe the generation before us, or even the generation before that, they were kind of, always like, at work, right? And they're working at work, or and they spend 8 hours a day there, and then they go home, right? And so, really the first thing that they grew up with was I remember being on AOL on the laptop, right? But as our childhood, as we got into really, our 20s, right? We're in college and stuff like that. The smartphones started to come out, and so I think our generation really, as young adults and even into our 30s, really grew up with that. Whereas I think that number is going to be even higher with the generation after us, because
for sure,
they don't use a laptop unless they're at school or if they're going to be at work, right? Everybody is using their cell phone, and it's I mean, some of these things are faster than your laptop, right?
Well, I only use my laptop because of work. I mean, my sister had gotten rid of her laptop. She was a travel agent. She only worked when she was at work. She didn't really need a laptop, and I think that there's a lot of people who don't need them at home, that they're not doing their work, or maybe it's school and stuff, but I'm just glued to mine because of that. But that takes us right into our next one. Millennials love their smartphones.
Whoa, look at that segue.
Who knew?
Now.
Who knew? I mean, I definitely, I don't want to discount the fact that we grew up pretty much on the internet. So of course we love the internet, but I think just technology and the ways that we've learned to find information for education, for self-help, for connecting with people. I think that's just, we're so used to that. I think that's why we do love the benefits of it. But so 92% of millennials carry smartphones compared to only 85% of Gen Xers. And they use them a lot. Some of 25% of millennials report looking at their phone more than 100 times a day. And that there was an international survey, I think it says that 50% spend more than 3 hours on a day, which, they track that for you. Do you ever get updates with how much time you're on your phone?
Yeah, no, I look at it like at the end of each week, right? But it's crazy because I think the business world has changed so much. I remember you remember the BlackBerry? Like that was like the phone to do business on, like the emails and all that stuff. And so, I mean, so many people, I know as soon as a notification comes on my phone, doesn't matter what it is, right? The phone, you're automatically looking at it, right? It's an email, it's something happening in the world, right? We're just inundated with information. And I know I could probably easily say I look at my phone at least 100 times a day, if not more. And so I totally agree with it, but I think that the world has changed, right? I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but growing up, I remember having, this might date me, but I remember having a whole encyclopedia, like of everything, like where if you need to go search something, right, you just pull it down, you read about it. But now you just Google it, right? And all the information is right on your fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, we're using it not only when we're by ourselves, when we're looking up stuff, when we're playing games, when we're connecting with other people, when we're texting, when we're, on social media, but it's also even just out when you're right. It's a device that you can use to access that technology that is out there that we're so used to, that it's just literally sitting in front of us, and it's something for sure that other generations didn't have. And I think that unlike, I don't think we're unlike other generations before us that enjoy it. And there's definitely things that we've seen with people that are older than us that are glued to their phones too. So I don't think it's just us, but I definitely think, we were at that age as teenagers that the cell phones came out, and we definitely, we enjoy, I think, having them, but the downside is being on them too much, right? You need to have that balance of. putting the phone down.
You literally, that was the next thought that was running through my mind is like, I like consciously now think about like when I'm like, for instance, last night we were at the beach, the sun was setting, and yes, I took a picture of with my phone, but I also took that moment in, right? And I think a lot of millennials will get that, people will say, well, they're not living in the moment. And I mean, for some people, yes, that's their problem. But just think about what this phone has replaced over the years, right? It's replaced your camera. It's replaced your laptop. It's replaced, in many cases, your wallet, right? It's replaced all those things. And so I think you're only going to see more usage, right? I think you're going to see like 90, 95, 99% of people using this more so than anything else.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't have like the Apple Pay and all that, like a lot of people, but I just keep my, my stuff back here. I used to have a slider case, but that's what I carry around. You're right. It is kind of like my wallet too, which is not very safe, but.
No, I was just thinking about it. Like I have left my wallet home before, right? And just be like, I'm good. I'll get it when I get home. But if you leave your phone at home, right, you're going back. You're going back to get it because it's your life essentially. And not to say that's a bad thing, like you said, but it does so many things for us. And I think, as millennials, we're one of the first generations to really embrace that power of using technology, the smartphone, and all that type of thing. It's a double-edged sword, like you said. It cuts both ways. It's really good. It's really bad. So,
right.
I would totally say we love our phones.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like you experienced and we did with our podcast here, that technology and the internet and our phones, sometimes we can't rely on them. And I think that's a really good example that there, not necessarily that there's other ways of doing our podcast, because there's not, if we don't have Wi-Fi and all that. But I think that it's, we have to appreciate what we have and understand that sometimes it's not going to work and we can't rely on it. So we have to adapt and, just like we did, reschedule and whatnot. But before I get into another, I guess I would say, interesting fact, I thought that too, I had scrolled up to the top of this and some things that, we want to hit on too. Millennial years of birth, we know, is 81 to 96. So we want to keep highlighting those years, I think, just so that we know that people understand the millennial generation and that, it's the age ranges of people born from 1981 to 1996, because we get coined as young people. So it does say this here in these facts, and I thought we should just bring it up because it's very interesting that a lot of the articles about spreading COVID back when there were the Gen Zers who are below us that were down for their spring breaks, they were saying millennials. And I think the millennial word is often used for young person, right? That's what it says here. And it's not, I think that we just keep stressing those ages, because I think that, we're also being lumped in with that. And obviously we're Generation Y. You can see me in my little, cartoon there for that. But I think that, I think we should keep highlighting those age differences too, just so that people obviously differentiate between the generations, but I got a good.
Yeah, I was going to just to harp on that. I was going to totally agree with that. We get, everybody just kind of gets lump sum into as a millennial if you're young, like you said, and it's just like anything in life. If you think about it like this, like our culture has a history of doing that. Like I said, Google, right? Even though Google's a company, everybody just says, if you want to search something, you just go Google it, right? If you need a tissue, most people say, oh, here's a Kleenex, right? They associate words with large things. And it's like I said, it's not just us. There's countless products that people do that with. And we do get lumped into the younger crowd, and oh, that's just a millennial doing millennial
Right.
things. Like, no, that's not even close. Like, that person was born in 1998, so no, they're not a millennial.
Yeah, you could look at it like this. You could look at it like Google. They made such a name for themselves, and they were the top internet search, right? And you have Kleenex. You have all these brands that branded themselves and that made such a big name for themselves. So I think we look at it like we, as millennials, we have made such an impact on society and history that they can't forget about us, and they just want to keep talking about us. But I would say it's for the good things that we've done. Not everybody else is going to say it's for the bad things, but I think, I think we should definitely keep stressing that. But you're right, and it's not a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here too. It's not all millennials, like we said. There's some bad raps. There's some really, really great things that are going on with millennials, and we're differentiating between the two, and we're trying to yell about both of them and the goods and the bads. And sometimes it's not going to be all one way, just like this one, your post the other day. Millennials are vocation. What, I can't even say this word. This is why I should read more because my vocabulary. Readers, I posted underneath your post here. I don't read. I never enjoyed reading, but here we go. That millennials love to read. A couple years ago, there was an average of 5 books per year, which isn't a lot. I know yours is at once a month here, but it was compared to 4 books for the previous generation. So I know that it says too, millennials are more likely to visit public libraries, but I definitely think that with all the technology, I don't know how true that is. But yeah, you take this one on about reading, because you know how I feel about reading.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Like, I'm in the same boat as you because I was never an avid reader. And it was funny. We were talking about it yesterday. This was one of the ones that we were talking about because they were like, oh, millennials are always on their phone. They're always, their head's always in the clouds. Like, they're always dreamers, but they're never doers, blah, 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 blah. And I brought this up and I was like, your generation only read 4 books, and so, but for me, I'm in the same boat. The last year I probably read 1 book, but this year I made a goal for myself to read a book a month, right? To accomplish that. And that's because of just some of the ties associated with successful people. They read a lot of books. So, if that's going to make you successful and you read more, I'll give it a try. Right. But my wife, Megan, is the complete opposite. She's literally, we've been at the beach for a week. She's probably read 6 books already. Like, she can read books like that. So, I thought that stat was really just weird for me because I was like, I don't think I read a lot of books. And I talked to a lot of my friends that don't read a lot of books. But then I also noticed some things, right? My friends that didn't read a lot of books, right? They're not as successful as my friends that do read a lot of books. And so that's kind of where the goal came in of reading those 12 books in a year. And so, but it's interesting. Even though we're on our phones more, we actually had a higher number of books read. So I would say that's a win-win for us.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that it depends on what books you read. Obviously, I think that you definitely gain vocabulary and knowledge and things that are stimulating your mind and imagination and whatnot. But I enjoy the more self-help, just kind of personal and business gain books and all that. And I definitely should read a lot. I think it's just the time. I just don't make time. I need to make the time for it. But I would think that these stats, that there would be a lot more. I do have a lot of friends that read a lot of books, like you said, like Megan with being at the beach. I think it's just making time and choosing what we're going to do when we have downtime and we have alone time. And I think my imagination and my creativity and my mind goes wild all the time, that I wouldn't enjoy reading books, I think, that aren't going to necessarily teach me or make me grow or change, doing those things like learning and the knowledge. So I think for me, I would love to read books that are going to get me to another level of things. But
yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, and I don't even know if that number takes into account, because it's not really reading, but I know a big thing now, especially in the millennial world, is the audiobooks, right? Being able to, because it's hard to always be able to sit down, like you said. Like I make a conscious effort to read for 30 minutes. That's because more than 30 minutes, I'm going to go crazy. I'm kind of like you, like my mind just starts to wander and I start to not really am taking in what I'm reading. And so, but audiobooks, right? Audiobooks are a big thing for people because they can get in their car, right? Drive 45 minutes to whatever appointment they might have and read a book.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's great. It's so funny. You just were getting ahead a little bit in a good way, but it wasn't the same. So audiobooks, it doesn't talk about audiobooks on here. And I think that that's really interesting, that I would love to listen to a book when I'm driving. I used to not drive that much, but now the drive up here is about an hour and a half. I would totally listen to a book. But here we go. The next one right after the books, millennials prefer print. So this is interesting that millennials are more likely to read print books than ebooks. So it's not the audio, it's more of just on the Kindle or on your tablet. They would prefer to read an actual book. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I mean, I like the feel of a book. It's tangible. It's especially if you want to make notes in a book, like that's what I do. Especially like if I like read something, because I'm like you, I don't read a lot of books for pleasure, I guess. I'm not reading books that are like, like my wife, she's reading like murder mysteries and all these other books, like romance books. Whereas I want to read something technical, like about my profession or about developing my mind or, something along those lines. Reading somebody like biographies, history, those types of things. And so I would much rather have a book that I could be able to write in. I think for me, that's why I want a tangible book, to be able to highlight, remember things, go back if I need to. I think for me, carrying around this thing all day and then having to pick up a Kindle or whatever, right, or a tablet of some kind and read a book, it just seems kind of artificial.
Right, and I was just going to say the same thing, because it says that if the price was the same, 80% of millennials would choose the paper book instead of the ebook. And I think what it goes down to, just in my opinion, is we're on our phones all the time, more for social or for work. And then I think going to then do something like that for pleasure, it might be mentally just different opening up an actual book. It's almost like you're escaping the social media and you're actually doing something and I'm very visual, and not that it's about books, but I still like to make to-do lists and I like to write things down. So I like to literally write them down. It's kind of OCD, but I like to see them and I like to cross them off. Literally, this is a completely different topic, but I can make to-do lists on a Word document. I can make them on my phone, but there is nothing like sitting and seeing a piece of paper that I can actually cross off and check and say, I did this. And it's just different for me. So, yeah.
And Chris here says hard copy books to take notes and highlight for later review and reflection. So basically what I was just, so I didn't even see his comment until I saw it pop up. And so, I mean, I think, and Chris is a fellow millennial, or he actually works in my office with me, but yeah, spot on. It's just the ability to, because I am not, like I said, an avid reader. So I'll read something, not understand it, and have to reread it like twice to understand. Right. So I'll have to go back and highlight and be like, this is what this meant. Okay, let me think about this. And especially like you saying like, hey, I didn't know what that word was. Like, I have to go back and look at and see what words are so I can understand the sentence.
Yeah, but it's also learning. I mean, it's great. It's learning and stimulating your mind. But here's a good one. Since I scrolled down, I saw a nice picture of a goal list, 1, 2, 3, and it says millennials are very interested in self-improvement. Study a couple years ago found that 94% of millennials made personal improvement related New Year's resolutions like saving money, you'd like that, which was higher than any other group. And 76% said that they had kept their resolution from the year before. So let's talk a little bit about working on yourself and what you think millennials, what do you think about goals and stuff?
Yeah, so I'll tackle the self-development part first, and then I definitely want to get your thoughts on that. So I think self-development, especially in our age group, comes from, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes or anything like that, but I think, it has to stem from a lot of our childhoods, and that we were always kind of maybe protected in a sense, right? Because we were talking about this the other day in the meeting, or at dinner the other night, last night, and we obviously talked about the trophy, everybody gets a trophy generation, right? And we're definitely a part of that, but I think we were kind of protected in that sense, and so when we got out into the real world, we had to kind of, we were no longer protected anymore. So, and our mind was maybe not as developed as other generations before us. Like I think of like my grandparents and stuff like that. They came through really hard times, and when they got out into the real world, and I say real world when they were, not kids anymore, they're hardened, right? And so I think we were a little bit shielded from that, and so that's why we're so into self-development, because maybe we didn't develop that kind of thick skin or that mindset early on. And so we had to kind of develop it ourselves through learning, videos, podcasts, those types of things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's people who at our point, we have to make a choice. We've talked about this in a couple of the other lives that we did on your page, but you have to make a choice if you want to grow and you want to make yourself better and get yourself to a better place. And I think that, sure, we were taught some of those things and how to get to those places, and we're figuring it out ourselves. I think a lot of it is that we have to say, hey, no one else is going to do this for us. Just like work and money and finances and all those other things, nobody else is going to get us to that better place in our lives except for us. So I think we've had to learn the hard way a little bit, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here we go.
And then
so keep going. Yeah,
I was going to say the goals.
I saw the next one and I was ready to go. I'm sorry.
No, the goal portion of it, I think also has to deal with the traditional life that we were sold, right? Hey, go to your job, work at your job for 40 years, retire, right? Be told what to do every day. A lot of us had that mindset of that we wanted to create something for ourselves, right? And set goal. And in order to do that, to be successful, you have to have goals. And so a lot of us, through our self-development, realized that really successful people that created something for themselves set goals to accomplish, because in my mind, it casts a vision, right? A vision of where you want to go. So.
Yeah. And I think little feats of success, just tiny little feats of success add into big success. So I think what I've seen is in the, you can't do it all and trying to get everything done yourself or setting unrealistic goals is not good. So I think making goals, making to-do lists, making things that you can tackle little by little, I think little success adds into big success for sure. But are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, I totally agree. So you're ready for the next one? Let's hear it. I'm ready.
I want to yell about this because this is gonna be interesting. So
whatever it is, you get to yell about it first.
I say millennials because that's what you've been saying. Millennials are fairly self-centered, or so say millennials. Millennials think they are self-centered. Research presented in 2016 found that millennials believe that their generation is more narcissistic than generations past. Those surveyed from older generations rated millennials as being more narcissistic too. So that's interesting. So I I definitely think that with social media and the selfies, there's a girl right now in the picture of this, with her lips out, taking a picture of herself. And I'm not one for selfies. I posted maybe 2 or 3 on all of my social media in ever. But yeah, I think that we get a bad rap for being all about ourselves. And here it says our generation feels that way, and it says that the older generation feels that way. So, what do you think? I don't feel that. I don't feel that I'm that way.
I hate this one. I hate this one because I think there's parts of every generation that are super selfish, right? And I mean, I don't think we're selfish. I think there are aspects of the millennials, right, that a couple of us are selfish. But I mean, I guess they say that because are we supposedly the group that came up with the selfie and we're the selfie stick and all that stuff? Like that was really when we were growing up. But I mean, what do you define as being selfish? Like, are you like going back to goal setting? Like a lot of us were taught to, just, like I said, work at a place, just be part of a team, like do your little bit and move on with your life. And so is it selfish for us to want more out of life? Is it selfish for us to, not want that 9-to-5 job? Is it selfish for us to, want the finer things in life? I mean, some people might see that as that, and some people might see that as someone that's going after their dreams or goals. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, it's obviously being self-centered. I mean, you look at what the other bad raps that we get about being entitled and everything's handed to us and we don't work hard and we're lazy. I mean, I guess that kind of somehow can go into that a personality or those traits that's just basically that you're all about yourself. You want things handed to you. You don't want to, you want other people to do things for you. And I think that there's definitely a lot of people in millennials that are like that. But I don't know. I find that it's more of the people that I know aren't like that. I think that it's not the norm, but I can see that why people think that there are maybe based on those things, or just that they don't care about other people as much, and they're not as they're not as giving and not as I don't know. This one's a tricky one because I don't think I agree, but I'm wondering if it's based on a couple other things that are bad or negative viewpoints about us. But
yeah, I mean, if what I look at, I look at all the millennial brands, right? I look at, because I'm a huge person on, like, I love watching Shark Tank, right? I love watching it, and I see a lot of those millennial brands come through. And if we're so self-centered, right? If we're so self-centered, a lot of our brands that we love, like Tom's, for instance, why do we love Tom's? Are they great shoes? Not really. But what do they have behind them? They have a cause. If I buy a pair of shoes, right, I give a pair of shoes to somebody else. If, there's tons of other brands that are out there like that, if they have a social cause behind them.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of say to myself, are there some selfish, self-centered people in the millennial kind of brand? Obviously there are, but there are self-centered people in every generation. It's just human nature to be, for people to be self-centered, right? Because it's about their life. It's about their safety. It's about their well-being, right? But I would say a vast majority of us, do get behind these causes because we want the world to be a better place for everyone, not just one set of people.
Yeah, and I think we want to work hard for those things, and this goes right into our next positive.
I promise we didn't do this list.
Our positive fact: millennials represent a massive portion of the workforce. A couple years ago, there was there were 56 million millennials working or searching for a job compared to 53 million Gen Xers and 41 million baby boomers, which I know that the age difference, obviously some of them are going to be retired and some of them, that's, how do you create these stats? But we are the largest generation in the workforce right now. And it says that next one, just going to add right into it, that we are very dedicated to our work, sometimes a little too dedicated, and that millennials think about work a lot. And let's see here, found that 25 to 34-year-olds thought about and valued work more than older users. So let's just talk a little bit about like the work ethic, I guess, that you think. Just for millennials. I mean, here we go. We're the largest working generation.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth behind that we're very, that might be a self-centered viewpoint, right? I'm really into my work. I'm really into the results that I'm getting. And I know I'm that way. And because of the simple fact that I believe a lot of us believe that if we work really hard for a couple of years, we can set ourselves up for a lifetime of success. Whereas, maybe generations before us said, hey, I have to put in X amount of time, right? 30, 40 years at this one place, right? And then hopefully be able to have the things that I want. Whereas I think we can, especially with technology, I think we see that as a kind of like a jet fuel on the fire, right? Like that can make your results explode just because of the power behind it. And so I think we see, hey, if we work really, really hard for a couple of years, we can create something for ourselves that we don't always have to work super hard, right? We can kind of maintain what we're doing.
Right. Yeah, I know a lot of millennials who are incredibly hard workers and just so dedicated to their goals, like we talked about, and doing a good job. And that's just also how we were brought up. We were push, keep going and never give up. And I think, I definitely think that I agree. And here let me see. Millennials don't want to work 9 to 5. Let's see what this one says. Studies showed 74% prefer flexible working hours. 69% think it's not necessary to come into the office on a regular basis. So what does this come off to you as, like, right when you hear that?
I think they think that we don't know how to put in a hard day's work. And my mindset is, and we talked about this at length last night in our debate with some baby boomers and some Gen Xers and stuff like that. And, I think the generation before us and the generation before them, they love to sit by the water cooler, right? And talk and work was a very social part of their life. Whereas I think you would agree, if I can do 8 hours worth of work in 4 hours and get it done and knocked out, why do I need to stay around the office for an extra 4 hours doing nothing? Right? Just there's other things I could be working on. There's things I could be spending time with our family and whatnot. So, I see a little bit of that in both sides of the fence, but the typical. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you had a really great point, because I think I was out of college. I moved home. I was starting my business, and I got a job, and 9 to 5, I was at a desk, and I just remember I was chugging along, getting my stuff done, next. And I was just noticing that I was doing 20 jobs when somebody was doing 10. And they were older, obviously, older generations, but it's not how I work. Yes. Could I have done 10? Was our expectation 10? Yes. Or our expectation was 15. I don't know. But I was, just go. And there was a huge difference between those generations in what you had to do and what you wanted to do and what you could do. And I knew that from, right out of college. I saw that, and I was doing that. But I also think with this is with working 9 to 5, I think that the idea of flexible working hours, there are a lot of us that can work from home. Obviously, we kind of have our own business, we can set our own hours, but I think that there's a lot of people who know that they can do their job at home, especially now with COVID and the shutdown. We're finding so many people can work from home. So this is going to change every generation and ages and industries and whatnot, I think, as far as whether you want to work 9 to 5, whether I don't think that this necessarily is that we don't want to work. I think that's right when you hear it, you said it sounds negative. It sounds like we don't want to do this. I think that with set hours, I don't think that realistically a lot of the jobs that are done need to be a clock in at 9, clock out at 5 schedule. I think that it's, hey, a lot of people can make their own hours in different professions. And I think that productive wise, some people work better at night. I can set my own hours, but I think that it's more just finding that balance that why is it set 9 to 5?
Yeah.
For everybody.
Well, interesting fact. So I might butcher this a little bit, but from what I remember, because like I said, I'm a history buff, right? The 9 to 5 or the 40-hour work week only came to pass because of the Industrial Revolution, right? So factories were open for a certain amount of time, so they had a work day, 8 hours in a day. You would work that. So that's where that really came about, was when all of our grandparents and great-grandparents were owning their own businesses, made their own hours, right? They worked their own business. And then that happened, and a lot of them went to go work in the factories because they could make more money. They could have benefits and all this types of stuff. And so that's really where that came from. And I think you're seeing a transition in the generations that's not what we want. I think, like you said, we want something a little bit different. And I think also we come from a generation that asks the question, why? Well, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to, if there's a better way to do it, why do I have to do it this way? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, like you said, it comes up very negative, like, hey, you don't want to work. It's like, no, I can, why can't I can do the same amount of work you can in a smaller amount of time. I think that makes me more valuable to my employer, because Definitely. They're like, oh, I don't have to pay, or, they're not here. Maybe I don't have to pay for that office space, right? Maybe I can downsize and they can work from home, right?
Right. It's exactly what I was just saying. And I guess I couldn't really vocalize and get my words out, but you're right. I could do the same amount of work in half the time that other person could do. So do I do twice as much work as them, getting paid the same amount? That's what I did, right? Or do you base it on, hey, here's your quota for the day. Here's what you're supposed to do. You get done, you leave. I don't know. I mean, that was a long time ago, obviously. We're talking like, over 2006, 2007-ish. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's not just that we ask why. Also, I think we ask why not. And I think that there could be a lot of changes on that. But going back to us being self-centered, listen to this one. Speaking of work, but millennials aren't big on vacations. Millennials don't take very many vacations either. 2016 survey, 48% of millennial employees said that they wanted their boss to view them as a work martyr and often feel guilty for using paid time off. 2008 study showed that 16% of millennials said they don't request days off because they are too nervous to ask. So it doesn't seem very selfish and self-centered when it comes to working, but as far as. Yeah.
I mean, I hated asking off for work. Like, I got anxiety thinking about it. I was like, oh, I'm going to leave them, my team in the lurch, right? They're going to be down a person. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to think, even though now that I work for myself, right, I still kind of feel that, like, I'm here on vacation, right? But I'm working still because I have the ability, because of smartphones and technology, to work from wherever I want to. But I still think about, like, when I'm at the beach, right? I'm like, oh, there's stuff I could be doing, right? There's
Right.
there's other things I could be doing at this point. And so I totally agree with you. I think this kind of debunks the whole self-centered, because
In
if
a
you were
certain
more
way.
self-centered, yeah, because I feel like, you know, I don't know if there's a particular generation, but I always felt like, people were planning their lives around their vacation, right? They were waiting for that 1 week out of the year where they could kind of just completely disconnect. And I don't think we're built that way or wired that way to kind of disconnect. I think we're always
Right.
connected to what
Well,
we're
yeah, and I
doing.
think it's showing that it's the other way around. I think it's that that we are being dedicated and loyal to work, and not necessarily a specific employer that we've talked about too, differences between the generations before us. But I definitely think, yeah, I mean, you feel like you're letting somebody down. You might be letting your team down. I think a lot of us, are team players, and I think that it's also just wanting to, make sure everyone's happy and getting them, but you also have to take time for yourself. And I think, like, getting away and making sure that you can turn that off and spend time with your family on it, is on the flip side. But even though it says that we aren't big on vacations necessarily, asking for time off vacations, we all know that we love vacations because millennials love to travel. So that's like a hard catch 22. We love to travel so much and have all these experiences, but we aren't big on time off and asking for it. But 57% of millennials put seeing the world at the top of their list of aspirations, ahead of owning a home or having children just last year in 2019. It is a global survey,
Wow.
okay? This is a global survey, but still, seeing the world, more than half of millennials would rather do that. And I think, I wouldn't say rather, but kind of put that
At
above
the top of your list.
the home and children, which is interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think our generation kind of got, like, how do I say this? A lot of us, a majority of us don't have kids.
Right.
And so I think this might make us selfish, right? We want to, or self-centered in a sense. So we're kind of proving it, disproving it at the same time. I think a lot of us want those experiences, that we're not just, hey, like going to the beach. Like, because I know growing up, like going to the beach every summer was like the thing, right? That's what you did. Everybody went to the beach, right? And so I think a lot of us, we can see the world through technology, but there's a difference between seeing it and experiencing it. So I think we want life experiences rather than maybe having a new home, right? Because I mean, owning a home is great. I love it. But, like, would I be the same person if I didn't own a home? Yes, I would. Like, if I was a renter, I would be fine with that. So, but
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that the stipulations of owning property, owning something was, we found that our parents' generation, that was definitely very important to them. And I think that our interests, and I think, and the goals and things that we want out of life, not out of life, I don't want to say that because I don't want to sound like it's different, but I think that it's not as important to us because that's what they wanted, because their parents' generation didn't have that. So I think that we are looking at it just in a different perspective too.
Yeah.
But yeah, here was when you mentioned this earlier. Ready? Millennials have a lot of anxiety.
Ooh.
Millennials are very anxious. Study a couple years ago found that millennial employees between 18 and 34 experience work disrupted anxiety and depression at almost double the rate of older workers. And we had here is a book written as the first generation raised on the internet and social media, as a generation that came of age in the wake of the worst recessions in modern history And as a generation still grappling with the increased economic uncertainty and worsening financial prospects, millennials are experiencing anxiety like no other generation. That was a really good quote, I think, for us to discuss.
I mean, I personally don't deal with a ton of anxiety. I mean, I definitely have anxious moments, but like anxiety of like and I know people do, and I'm not trying to like say that doesn't exist. It definitely exists. But I think it comes to, just like you said, if you think about it, like the generation before us didn't really have, like, they had magazines and stuff like that, and they would compare themselves to people in magazines. But like now that like social media is like really here, you think, and I think it's going to even get worse for the generation after us and even after them. It's because like, Instagram and stuff like that, you're seeing like normal people, not like somebody famous. Like if you see like Brad Pitt, right, on a magazine, you're like, I'm never going to be Brad Pitt, right? Brad Pitt's Brad Pitt. But when you see Joe Schmo on social media posting like pictures of himself, what he's doing and stuff like that, I think a lot has to deal with comparison, right? And because we were always, I felt like, compared, and nothing, our parents are nothing like that, but I feel like we were always, our families were always comparing themselves to another family, right? Does that make sense? Do you get where I'm going?
Oh yeah. And I think it's definitely about not only the comparison, but trying to be, like we said, the best, trying to do it all, trying to be everything to everyone, the work-life balance, I mean, and it's stress. It even says one of the topics here that we're stressed out. But I think leading right into the next one, millennials are perfectionists. This is what one of my reasonings would have been if I hadn't scrolled down. I just would have thought too that a lot of us are perfectionists. And I think that when we don't get to a certain place, or we don't do something, and then we have a fear of failure, which, and I think that that's a lot where the anxiety comes from. Again, I don't have anxiety. I get anxious, and a lot of it's just stress and time management. But I think it says here that recent generations of young people perceive that others are more demanding of them, are more demanding of others, and are more demanding of themselves. So I think that ties into maybe to where that's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the books that I read self-development wise, going back to that one, are books. A lot of them are about, you can almost, like you said, like try to be too much of a perfectionist, and then you don't take any action, right? And so now you're like, oh, I have this project, but it's not perfect. I don't want to put it in, give it to this person because they're going to think it's stupid, right? And it's not this, I don't like this, but I really don't know how to fix it. And so a lot of the books I've been reading are kind of those books like, hey, just let it rip, right? Go ahead, make mistakes, fall on your face, get scuffed up, right? Get bloody, right? Cry, get angry. But do take action. And I think that kind of leads into anxiety, is that people would think, well, then my next step has to be perfect. And no, it doesn't, right? And, I definitely can see where that would lead to a lot of anxiety in people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought I'd wrap up the last one with here leading into the next generation. It says millennials will soon be outnumbered. So Generation Z, which is obviously after Y, is the next generation that's coming up that we are getting confused with sometimes. But U.S. millennial population is expected to reach 73 million in 2019, but millennials will soon be outnumbered. According to Bloomberg, Generation Z will outnumber millennials worldwide starting in late 2019. So here we are, we're already dating ourselves because I'm just reading 2019 last year. So here we go. We're pretty much there already, edging, up to 32% of the world compared to millennials, 31.5. So we are pretty much there. We have been outnumbered, it sounds, to Generation Z. So we can wait to hear about their goods and bads next, I guess. But no, I think this was great that we talked about some great points and facts. I don't know that they were facts. Let's be honest. These are definitely some of the things we didn't agree with some of them, but I think in detail we could see some ups, some downs.
No, I totally agree. I think there were aspects that we agreed with. There were aspects that we totally did not agree with. And, I'm just glad that we got to kind of talk a little bit about them because hopefully, somebody that saw us today doesn't kind of lump us all into one hodgepodge generation that doesn't care about the world and doesn't care about, things and is self-centered and is anxious and afraid
right.
and all those things, that I don't think define us as a generation. I think there's aspects that define us, but not everything that was in that list defines who we are as people.
Yeah, but I think it was great to talk about it, and I think that it would be a great thing for other people, our generation, older, younger, I think, to hear some of those things in how we agreed and disagreed, I guess, in some of them too. But yeah, I liked yelling about this stuff. It was definitely different from our other topics. I think it gave us some great content and things that we can go off of from here too. So I'm trying to add, what is our yell for this? Every week we have been doing, well, we started it last week, so let's be honest. Yeah. Every week we're going to be doing the millennial meme because of the story, if you heard in the last podcast, that memes are so millennial. So we thought it would be great. And I'm going to see, I know you added yours last time. But I could probably talk it up. Okay, I'm ready for it. You gonna put it? Just to surprise you. Here we go.
Oh my God.
I thought this was great. I had a couple that I was debating on, but if 2020 was a person, it would be Joe Exotic. Now, here's what's really funny about this. I didn't get into Tiger King for months into the shutdown. So there's many people out here that probably that you haven't watched Tiger King and know the whole Carol Baskin story and Joe Exotic and everything. But I watched the first 2 episodes, I think, and oh my God. I mean, it was like, I couldn't stop watching. It was real live reality drama of the craziest stuff that you can imagine. So if you haven't watched it, you just got to watch a couple episodes. I don't even think I finished it. I gotta check to see where I'm at, but
yeah, keep going. I mean, I finished it. So
yeah. And it's still, I mean, you still hear stuff on social media and, in the news area and the media about it. But I just thought that was perfect for what's been going on. I know we didn't really talk too much today about the things that are happening right now. So it's not as relevant, but I thought it would be a laugh for everybody. So
no,
I can't wait to see your meme for next week.
Oh, it's going to be good. I think I have one picked out, but if that doesn't say what 2020 is, if you haven't seen Tiger King, it probably won't make much sense to you, but just a hot mess of just trash, right? That's the best way to describe it. Just like a dumpster fire that's just like uncontrollably burning. Yeah. This year looks so much
better. Of that too. 2020. This is a picture of 2020, and it was a dumpster on fire. Oh no, it's great.
Oh my God! But 2020 is also a great year because it was the year our podcast was born. So we have that to be thankful for. So there's always a silver lining, people. There's always a rainbow at the end of the storm. So you gotta find the things in life that you can be happy about. So, but yeah, I mean, this was great, guys. We appreciate everybody that jumped on. Obviously, definitely, guys. We want to see if you guys want to engage. We would love to see some of your comments. Pop them up here. Get your thoughts on things. And obviously, if you like to yell about something or you want us to yell about something in particular, just let us know in the comment section or just send us a message. We'd love to kind of take on those topics as well and yell about those a little bit, because we're awful loud and we want to make sure that everybody hears our voice. So even in a tropical storm, right? There's nothing's going to stop us, not even a tropical storm. So
right. We made it happen. So we're resilient, we're resourceful, and we'll millennial another day. Okay.
Yep. Sounds great. So guys, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.